this video is going to be a bit different to my normal videos because I want to suss something out. So, people who've been watching the channel for a while have probably seen that I've done comparisons with fuel and shit like that, and the E10 one, Vpower versus E10. And if anyone remembers that video, quite interesting. The E10 was actually much worse than I anticipated it was going to be, and the car felt shit on it, and suffered with like MPG being less and stuff like that. And since having this car mapped, I'm supposed to use high octane fuel in it because all the powers and all that shit. And so I always use Vpower as a rule. I pretty much always use Shell Vpower from the same two petrol stations, which I think are owned by the same people. And recently I've noticed that my MPG has been a bit lower than usual. I just put it down to cold weather. I've been getting, I mean, this car's, these do a lot more than this, but this one's not standard. And I've been getting sort of 35 tops, 33, 35. And then another interesting thing happened. The petrol station that I normally use ran out of Vpower, so I had to put a bit of E10 in. And the difference was nowhere near as much as what it was the first time I tried E10. So, alright, that's interesting. Maybe they've just refined it a bit more. Maybe it's because I've used Shell E10 rather than Asda's E10. Could have been something like that. Didn't think much of it. So then that brings me to last week. Sorry for all the talking on this video, it's not really my usual sort of style. But last week I was going to Manchester and I needed some fuel. And I stopped at a Shell station, put some Vpower in, and all of a sudden the car come to life. It was just so much better. And I mean, like, within a mile of driving out the petrol station. And I thought, that's odd. And then the car felt great all week. Well, I had that couple of gallon of Vpower in it. It felt great. And I got like 39 miles a gallon. So then I needed fuel again, and I went back to my normal petrol station, put a couple of gallon in it, and that's what I'm running on now. Now, I don't know how many miles I'm going to get because I haven't used it yet. Car feels not as good again. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to try and compare the fuels. Now, I'm going to have to use this fuel up, see what miles I get, see how it feels. Now, the difference is hard to tell on a video because it's not about like the performance as such. It's like that initial, when you just tap the pedal, that initial, it's a little bit hesitant. Like, don't know, you won't pick it up on camera, I don't think, so it's just going to be off my sort of what I'm saying. But what I can show you is what MPG I get, and I'll also going to take a fuel sample, and I might be wrong on this, and if I'm wrong I'll put the video out anyway. It might all be in my head, but I'm going to test both fuel samples for the ethanol content, see if they are in fact the same on that kind. That's all I can test for. I can't test the fuels anyway. I'm not a scientist by any stretch of the imagination. So that's what I'm going to do in this video, so let's see how we get on. And interestingly enough, yes, 33.5 miles a gallon on the questionable fuel. So let's reset that. So now let's add 2 gallon from the station that felt not questionable. Yes. And I've also got myself a couple of litres for testing purposes. I've actually already got some fuel, some Vpower from the questionable petrol station. Now I'm saying questionable, but I've recently watched, yes, I've recently watched a video, I think it was Officially Gassed, who did some dyno comparisons on fuel, and the tuner who they used was saying that Shell is actually inconsistent. So it could just be that, it could just be that Shell fuel isn't that consistent. I mean, I never had this issue in the past, it's only recently I've noticed this, but let's see how the shitter feels to drive on this fuel. See how it feels when I put my foot down.
I put my foot down. I put my motherfucking foot down.
Pretty much immediately, well, within about 2 miles, the car does feel better. Now, I'm sure it's not a placebo, this. I say it could be, but it just feels not out and out faster, as I said before, but say if I touch the throttle, it just seems to react immediately rather than having any sort of hesitation. And after driving about 5 miles or so, the car definitely felt better. Definitely. Now, I think this is going to be more to do with, like I said before, about the inconsistencies with Shell fuel mentioned in that officially gassed video. I think it's going to be more to do with that than the station trying to pass off E10 as Vpower or anything like that. But I've got my test sample, so I'm going to test that for ethanol. Like I said, I've already got a sample from the other station with a Vpower, which I'm going to do the same test on and compare the two. And the next thing to do is, well, I need to see how many MPG I get. Now, I've sort of done this test accidentally before, which is why I'm doing a video on it. I was consistently, as I said, since the last few months, I've been getting about between 33 and 35 miles to the gallon out of this from the Shell station on Vpower that I use pretty much all the time. There's two near each other and the same. And as I said before, I went and put the fuel in from this other station that is in now, that I've just put in, and I got like 39 miles to the gallon, and the car felt better. Now I've just gone and put that fuel in again, and the car feels better again. So I'm anticipating I'm going to get the higher miles to the gallon. If I don't, and I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You know, if I don't, I will still put the video out anyway, and I'll just say, yeah, it's a placebo and I fucked up. But I'm definitely not convinced of that. I think that it is a case of that fuel, which I've got in it now, is better than the other fuel. So anyway, let's go and test this fuel and the other fuel and see if there is any more ethanol in it, or if it is just, like I say, one might have a bit of a bad batch or something. Yes. So at that, I've got 75 miles out of 2 gallon, which is more than what I got before. What's that? 75 mile is 37.5 miles per gallon. And before we're getting like 33 or something. Anyway, let's get back to the ultra scientific fuel test. You know, the actual chemical analysis that I'm going to do now. And when I say ultra scientific, all I'm actually going to do is see how much ethanol's in it. And all I can really test is that they're not selling E10 as Vpower, which I don't think that's the case. What I think it is because it's going to be franchised. They're going to get the fuel delivered and then they're going to sell it. You know, they're just going to pay for what they sell or something like that. I don't know exactly how it works, but I doubt that's the case. I think it's just a bad batch. But I'm going to test it for E10, well, for ethanol content, and see what we get. So this is the good fuel. This is the fuel that the car drove better on and got more MPG on. This is the one that it didn't do as good on. So let's see, I'm going to put 500 ml of that into I'm going to do exactly the same as what I did when I was testing the E10 the first time round, but I ain't got any food colouring, so it's going to be harder to see. So I'm going to put 500 ml of fuel in there, then top it up to 600 ml, so I've got 100 ml of water. Then if it's 5%, then it should raise the water, it'll be at the bottom, and then instead of being at like 50 ml, it'll be 10%, so it'll go up to like 125 ml of water from 100 ml of water with the ethanol mixed into it, because the ethanol will break away from the fuel and join with the water. So I'm going to do that now. So there we have 500 millilitres scientifically measured of fuel. Now I'm going to add scientifically measured, yes, 100 mils of water, like so. And as we can see, it's at the bottom, and then I need to stir it. And if anyone remembers in the E10 video, this didn't actually take very long at all for it to settle out. It sort of happened pretty much instantaneously. I was expecting to have to leave it overnight or something, but I didn't. So now let's give it a good stir up there like that. And now I just need to leave that to settle until it settles. And so after leaving that to settle for a couple of minutes, it's pretty much where I'd expect it to be. It's actually showing like just under 4% ethanol by my accurate calculations. So that's the good fuel, or the known good fuel. So let's try the other stuff. So again, we've got 500 mils of fuel. And then we'll carefully add 100 mils, very accurately, of water. And we'll see where that settles. Obviously after we've stirred it up. Also in a scientific manner. And at the moment it doesn't look hardly any different. Well, we can't fucking tell, can we? And after a few minutes of settling, yes. Well, it's not E10, but it's also seems to be E6, and that's more than 5, according to my scientific measurements. So there is a bit of difference between the two, which I did suspect, but I didn't suspect it was going to be ethanol. That's the difference. But that is definitely more than, well, 5 would be in between those two lines. It'd be 25 mil, and that's more like 30 mil, which says 6%. Now E10 fuels anything up to 10%, E5 fuels anything up to 5%, so it can be less, but it shouldn't really be more. So I'm actually surprised by that. I didn't think that was going to happen. So, well, what does that tell us? Well, the difference that I've been seeing driving this with that fuel, which is a mighty 6% ethanol, the difference isn't because it's 6% ethanol. I mean, that's, you know, the difference between that and 5% is enough to be nothing noticeable anyway. But what else is different in the fuel? And why is it 6% and when it's supposed to be 5%? Has there been a mix up with when they filled up the tanks and it's, you know, they've put the wrong fuel in at some point? You know, what has caused that? Now, I actually watched a video, and I've mentioned this, the officially gas video, the dyno testing. Now, I've been making this video for a few weeks, on and off, and that video actually came out when I was midway through making this one. So it's something I'd noticed before that. Just on this one time though, because Shell Vpower has always been good. It's always been good when I've used it. I've never had an issue with it in the past. It's just like all of a sudden over the past sort of, I'd say 2, maybe 3 months, that I've noticed it doesn't seem as good from where I've been getting it from. And like I say, the question is why. Can't really get my head around that, because Shell won't just let anybody sell, you know, any fuel station, put a Shell sticker up and buy the fuel from wherever they want and then sell it as Shell Vpower. It's not going to work like that. They're going to give them a certain amount of fuel and then they're going to sell it, and then they're going to charge the retailer for what they sell as such. It's going to be something along them lines. It's not just going to be, yeah, fill your tank up, sell it as Shell, don't fucking matter, do what you want. It's not going to be as simple as that. So I suspect that possibly there might have been a bad batch. It's got to be something along the lines of a bad batch. I don't think it's a fuel station. I don't think they've been trying to do something shady or anything like that. Hence why I haven't mentioned which fuel station it is. And also my scientific tests won't really stand up to much anyway. All I'm saying is my car don't feel as good. I'm getting less MPG and it's got more ethanol in it from a test which I've done on the floor in my workshop. Well, you know, it's not really great, is it? Anyway, I think I've rattled on long enough now. That's pretty much it for this one. Not my usual style of video. Let me know what you think, comments and all that sort of shit. A lot of this steering wheel and talking to it, my best friend and that. So anyway, like, subscribe, all the usual kind of shit. And I'll see you next time. But wait, there's more. Yes. I just thought I'd add this on the end. After doing that test, put a couple of gallons of Tesco Momentums in it. And I got pretty much the same MPG as the Vpower that did well. Which I think sort of strengthens the case, really. So yeah, that is it now. I'd just also like to add that the fuel difference and the MPG difference. The MPG difference was way more than what it ever should be. I think that's partially my fault, because the car's less responsive on the fuel that's not as good. I'm sort of like pressing the go pedal a lot more and what have you, to make the car do what I'm sort of expecting it and wanting it to do. I'm not saying I'm driving the arse off it, because I'm not. I'm not driving it like a dick or anything. I'm just like, it's just like when you're pulling away, it just feels a bit lethargic. So then I find myself sort of pulling away and then putting my foot down further than what I would have done with the decent fuel in it, really. So now I'll just leave you with that. See you in a bit, bye. Nope, still more. So this video, as you've probably realised, has been filmed over quite a long period because I wasn't happy with it. So I thought, wait to possibly gather a bit more evidence and what have you, or, you know, run my car on the Tesco's fuel for a bit more. And I have done. I've been running my car on Tesco's fuel since this experiment, and every time I've been getting pretty much the same MPG, about 38 or so. But also, I'd like to add something else. Somebody else has made a video about the ethanol in fuel. And I'll put, if I can suss out how to do it, I'll put a link in the video description to Auto Shenanigans, who measured the ethanol in all the E10 fuels. And none of the ones he measured had 10% in it, which I mean, the ones I measured before did have 10% in, but it didn't do ours, did it? So yeah, on his Shell Vpower, not Vpower, Shell, whatever it is, budget shit, it had 6% ethanol in it. So I've come to the conclusion now that the Vpower that wasn't as good was the wrong fuel. I think probably a mix-up when they put the pump in, you know, when they fill the tanks up or something. So I can put it down to, because mine had 6% and his E10 had 6% ethanol in it. Like I said, with the wording, it can be up to 10% ethanol. E5 can be up to E5 ethanol. Anyway, that is it this time, I think. I don't know. I'll see what happens.